Hello?
And there's like a 30-second delay. Hello?
Maybe put your head. Do the headphones connect to the computer or no?
We'll hear it.
Hello?
Just a second. Sometimes it takes that.
There we go.
That's your first one.
Test.
Everyone can hear you in the city.
Fuck.
just. Where's the speaker?
It's a good question. Yes, the side is good. Here, let me see here. Sorry. Yeah. Let's say here.
Everything's good?
Everything is good. It works.
Good.
So, is Sally here?
Yeah, she'll be down.
Okay.
She's just had to go to a meeting.
Do you mind if I load up the presentations one here?
Or do you want to wait until after?
I think we should just wait until
Just in case.
after, yeah.
Okay.
It's all set and
It's
ready,
all ready?
to
Okay.
roll.
Can do.
That's fine. We might not even need them. So, yeah.
Yeah, we can wait.
Sally has her...
I did. Yes, I saw it. Thanks, Rosemary.
Sally said she has her notes as well.
Okay, good.
She's ready to go.
And, you know, the online article?
Oh, yeah.
I just want to make sure you guys are...
Yeah, I only had a really quick look at it yesterday, but yeah, I think it's fine. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's all
A little
good. Sorry.
unorthodox. And yeah, there, like we work with two people who are social media specialists,
Yeah,
and they say that more relaxed thing is what social media is.
yeah.
And, you know, I was a little...
Uncomfortable with it,
Oh,
or
it's-
just
I
the,
was
just the,
but
it
I'm
was a
an
bit
old
too informal?
newspaper man.
Yeah,
You know, and I'm not in tune with
with what's going on.
so
Yeah, no, I thought it was, yeah, I mean, it was definitely informal, but if it's for like a, magazine, social media kind of thing, I don't think you want to read anything super dry and boring.
Yeah.
So,
So I think, yeah, if they come to the...
I
They
keep
probably
meaning to
will.
mention to
They
you
probably-
something
and
that
some-
may
they'll-
come
they'll-
up
they'll feel
calls
they
about
can speak.
is Broadview Public School.
right?
They're proposing a new school there, anyway, and they want to tear down the existing
No, I circulate
parking
to
lot
staff
where it was.
committee members,
So,
but they don't
we
get
received
made
a couple
public.
requests.
I mean, they're public in the sense that they're in the records.
They're in the process of submitting a site plan application. We may be moving forward with designation. So, if and when we end up doing that, it's I just think it'll be.
It depends on what the committee does.
It's going to be really noisy on both sides. Like the people who are in support are really noisy, and the people who are against it are also really noisy. So it may get picked up.
It's going to change the
So that'll be closer to the end of the month.
Yeah, but so it's not like we wouldn't normally send
And the reason I said that this morning is because somebody said Councillor Harder.
so let's say
So
she, we know the public.
Yeah, they are.
yeah, it's very interesting.
So, yeah, the lot was 750. And he hasn't purchased it, but he has an agreement. So I don't understand.
Maybe they had agreement to have the garage or the house situated in a certain spot and it changed.
But yeah, maybe they just, let's just ask them those ones.
What the protocol is?
But she said that they were public. They were in public.
Yeah, yeah, like I don't normally send it all out to neighbors, but I know, like to the owner, but often I like summarize the comments and send and say, hey, this might come up.
Yeah.
This is the gist of
Yeah,
it.
and there's really only the two that
Yeah.
are concerns.
Do we have any more information about if we're going to be changing days? If we're going to choose
We won't know until the government's report is tabled on the 26th.
of November?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's dependent on whether they can get permission to switch. If they can't
Right.
get the councillors to agree to switch by
Right.
they don't.
My question is purely selfish because I'm registering for French. So I just want to make sure that I don't register on a day that we yeah, so I'll just say I'm not available on Tuesday mornings and Thursday mornings. That's all. Because that's the day it'll go to, right? If it goes. Yeah. Oh, it's such like the winter squares there. I think you're stressing for no reason. I know, but I don't think we're gonna do it. I would just ask if it's like a big donor, you just ask like Andrew or Carol Ruddy or somebody like that. Because they're the ones, that's their team, right? So they'll at least be familiar with whatever it is. Good morning, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Well,
Good.
yes.
Good. Well, which is good.
Yes.
Even though the flu season is starting.
That's right. Already got my flu shot.
You did.
I got mine too.
Well, it's next week.
I live with a family doctor, so he just brings it home from work and stands me in the kitchen. And I'm very nervous about needles. So
Yours.
I am, yeah. So one day, a couple weeks ago, I came home and I opened up the fridge and I see this like vial in the fridge, and I didn't clue into what it was. I was like, "What is this in the fridge?" And it's like, "Oh, hang on." I'm like, "Okay."
You asked.
Yeah, I know, it's my own fault.
I put mine at just the drugstore.
Yeah, you can get them anywhere.
Yeah, and it was, I thought that it was like really painful, and it was like actually bleeding. It feels fine. I don't have to swim.
Well, soon we'll be able to get the Canada Post community mailbox. Just walk over a mile
Your
or
neighbor
two.
gives it to you.
And once you find it, then you can't wait to see the community mailbox in Rockcliffe. One.
I don't know if some people will have
Are they part of the next rollout, I wonder?
We hope so.
You hope so, maybe. We don't
Yeah,
know.
not, but they, because
Yeah,
The
there was one.
livery people are sort of, like, they're sort of
Well,
spreading
can't you
rumors
imagine
about
this Heritage Conservation District? Where do you put?
Well, we had, the Bell House in New Edinburgh, the big white one, 151 Stanley. The owner of that, who's just done a beautiful project on the house, heard some rumor that it was going to go right in front of his house, and so he
so we okay.
and talked to them about it and said, you know, we're in the district and we'd like to discuss with you what you're doing, right?
Because apparently they're talking now across the street like
Yeah, which is a more modern building.
but it's a lot of like, is it coming here? Those people want it, we don't. That would be fun.
Reversible intervention.
I look forward to it.
Yeah.
No, it's not irreversible. Anyway, talk to you guys.
Say good morning again.
All
Nice
you
to
have
see
to
you.
do is click play again.
Okay.
And just go to full screen. What pops up?
Yeah, I sent,
And
something.
it'll play.
Okay, so it's on this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
On that screen, and we'll ask maybe staff and lights.
Sure. So, right, so Jan and
She's going to speak for
There's no rational.
2 minutes, and then
okay.
Of course, exactly. You know, you'll see if they're trying to basis, and that's the point, right?
Just brought you.
Oh, okay.
There's been lots of emails. I don't know if that's
We've met once or twice in the past.
the sum total of the heritage section. Yeah, so, maybe we can sooner rather than
Yeah, no, I appreciate it.
I know it's expedited, like,
Cool. Yeah. Is Hartman likely to be controversial for a back and forth?
You will learn nothing this meeting.
I pointed people on the Broadview to this morning's meeting and report to say, just to get an idea.
Oh, wait, that was a good idea, because the format is always the same with the information and a
I accepted the
recommendation.
Bethany House report
Yeah,
previously,
Yeah.
and that's your format is. So there's no point system. Well, I'll get briefed up.
No.
the point system is gone.
No, there is a point system, but it's not numbers. It's,
Yeah, that's what I mean. The numerical system
yeah,
is
it's,
gone.
numerical system, yeah. But yeah, we moved to yes, no.
Cool. Anyways, have a good meeting.
Thank you. I don't know if you might want to sit here to do your remarks because Patrick has that all set up for the speaker for the thingy.
Right, but he told me, but this is where my thing is.
What do you mean?
I have to turn on my
Oh, you have to turn it
presentation
on. Oh.
after I finish my remarks.
Oh, okay. I just didn't know if you wanted to move that microphone, which you had set up so that you could hear the tunes.
Oh, the tunes. Okay.
Anyway, it doesn't matter.
It's
I
sort of
don't think.
awkward because I have to move back and forth.
Yeah. We could probably just move this microphone over.
Better now?
Yes. Yeah, I'm
That's a nasty one.
99% better.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was way worse before I had surgery. Like the recovery from the surgery was nothing compared to how sick I was before.
My daughter had a gallbladder attack.
Yeah.
She walked away, and they said it's like giving birth, except
That's
it
what
doesn't end.
Yeah, so I haven't given birth, so I don't know, but that's what everybody keeps saying to me.
I thought that was kidney stones, or it's anything that's inside.
I don't know. So I was having, I had 4 major attacks before I had my surgery. So we ended up in the ER numerous times. Yes. Thank you.
I've completely forgotten what Patrick told me to do.
Just
You know,
press play,
you
I
should
guess.
actually, no one should ever tell me that.
Would you like me to sit there and press play?
No, I just that. Okay, so
I think you just have
do
to
this.
press.
Okay, I didn't know whether it was this or whether there was a mouse.
So somebody emailed Councillor Carter this morning about Broadview, and she responded to say, I will share this with Vice Chair Podolsky and we will get back to you.
Okay.
But it was somebody against the designation. So anyway, just as an FYI, that if she asks about it, she now knows.
Right, right.
Oh, shit.
Miss Quinn. Hello. That's okay. No, that's okay. But I
So,
but I had also told him that because I had
That's part of our job, right? Is that you run with the council.
breaking all.
Because they're not unionized or anything, I don't think. Maybe some of them do.
Maybe you don't want to do that.
Maybe
You
it's
just
too
want
much
to
baggage, yeah.
We feel more like it's kind of in control.
Yeah, I know. Very well. I thought about saying it. I was like, I think I'll can that one.
Could have been a hit.
It could have been, but it also could have been a major disaster, or it could have had to result in me exploding. It just seems worse. There's another opinion in this.
There's a number.
I'm just wearing it as a trial. This is like my new time of year, my time of year for
Just trying to get a shot of all this.
Oh, that's good. We do.
She started.
Nope. Can't tweet about how much the bus. Not that I'm tweeting about that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, that's okay. I'm very dull.
Those boots are like your best purchase in a long time.
I love them.
They're so nice.
Yes. You've taken to social media, Mr. Izzy. I know you're fantastic.
Insubordination.
Insubordination.
We've Anne.
Okay.
Anne is actually doing work.
Right. Well, I'm actually going to take my glasses off. Oh, come on.
She's busy actually working.
Actually working.
Now you'll be on Twitter. So I was just saying to Anne, he followed me on, like I'm on Twitter, but I don't do much, but he followed me on Twitter last night. So I was like, now I can't, like, you know, tweet that I'm out getting drunk at the bar. Not that I'm tweeting about that anyway, but I was just like tweeting, telling my heritage.
They made Ian go on Twitter. They made all the reporters go on Twitter, and he's got so many followers now, and he's always, so-and-so from wherever, I think.
Yeah, I follow Ian on Twitter.
You follow Ian on Twitter? It must be really boring.
I can't really think about what I read from his Twitter, but I do see him pop up from time to time. I need to call the people I follow a little bit because it's too much.
Because my sister's husband is so much older and French, I took the most beautiful picture of him on our day trip to the Bauhaus.
Oh, yeah?
So just the video?
Yes.
Yes, they asked us to not.
Good morning, everyone. We're going to get the committee going this morning. It's our last one of this term. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming. Matthew, thank you for coming today. Yes, you. So this is Agenda 19 of the Built Heritage Subcommittee, and it's the last one of this term, as I mentioned. Any declarations of interest? No. Confirmation of minutes. These would be the minutes from the 9th of October. Does anyone have any changes, or are they carried? Carried? Okay, I have a little speech I'm going to present on our work that we've done this term, and after that we're going to have a video presentation of our 2014 Heritage Tour, which I'm sure you're going to enjoy. And then we get to the meat of the matter, the application for new construction on Littleton Gardens. We're going to hold that one because some of the committee members have some questions, and we have received correspondence from the nearby neighbors on that file, so that will be held. The next one is the application to alter 241 Park Road, a property designated under Part 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act and located in the Rockcliffe Heritage Conservation District. We don't have any speakers today, and thank you very much for coming today. The Ambassador, thank you very much. Welcome. Bienvenue. I'll ask my colleagues if they have any questions or they want to hold it, or if we can carry this.
I can say I'm not in favor of it, but because it's reversible, I'm content to let it go.
Okay, so we'll carry this item then.
Okay.
Thank you for coming. We're finished.
Madam Chairwoman, thank you very much for having me, and thank you for taking the time. If I may...
Come up to the table, please. If you'd like to speak, just come up to the open mic.
Thank you. I'll be very brief.
Sure.
But thank you for taking the time. I'm the ambassador of Colombia, and the government of Colombia has owned this house at 241 Park Road since 1956. When we bought it, it was maybe a 40-year-old house. And over the years, it started to deteriorate in several aspects, and the government was allocating the small funds to try to maintain the house. When I arrived with my wife and little kids here 2 years ago, and we moved into the house, we found asbestos. There was asbestos all over the house. So that was the reason that we were able to allocate some money from the government to fix the house. And so we spent 6 months abating all the asbestos. We think the house is finally free of all the asbestos. Especially what was worrisome for us was the wrappings in the pipes that are very close to where our kids played, etc. But all that is done and gone, and we started to fix the house. We had to change everything of the house, the electricity, pipes. It was falling apart. Like, unfortunately, some of the old houses in Rockcliffe are like that, and embassies many times don't have the funds. So we were, in a way, lucky that nobody got hurt, and the government, because it was a health issue, managed to allocate some money. So we're working with our contractors here. All the abatement is done. But we need to modernize a 100-year-old house, and one of the things we use that residence for is receptions. And one of the things that they don't tell you when you move to Canada is that it's cold a few months of the year here. But
it's a secret. We don't share it, except at Winterlude.
No, actually, what they don't tell you is how spectacular the summers are. Nobody tells you that. But anyway, I digress. We need to extend just a little bit the entrance so that when people come, the thing is that Canadians are very punctual. In Latin America, nobody would come, everybody at the same time. Here they do. So we need a place so they won't freeze while they're changing their boots and jackets, etc., when they come into the house. So
we call that a vestibule.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the reason we're here, and we have the architect and everybody if you have some questions. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're good.
Okay, perfect.
And thank you so much for coming out.
No.
Appreciate the time, and keep us posted.
Absolutely.
In fact, if you want
hopefully you'll come next year
when in the winter, and we'll all come over.
There you go.
We'll try not to arrive at the same time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So that's carried. And our last item is designation of Harton Hotel, which I cannot believe this has not been designated in the past. I honestly can't. I even was the chair of Heritage Nepean, and it never crossed our desk. And it's not like we have a whole bunch of heritage left there, since most of it was annexed or stolen by the city of Ottawa over the decades. Just had to say that. 1993 Robertson Road, under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. It's the former Al Steakhouse across from the second Nepean City Hall. And does anyone have any reason to hold this? Want a presentation? No? Good? Don't want to hear me say any more about Nepean or anything like that?
You can talk about Goulburn and the Hartons.
Yeah. Yeah, farmers. Anyway, thank you very much. So that's carried? Good. Okay, so we have one item held, and that's the Lyttelton, and we'll get to that shortly for questions. So thank you all for coming to this final meeting of the Built Heritage Subcommittee of this term of City Council. And we all remember that it's a brand new way of respecting heritage in our city. In the past, we had LACAC, and was entirely citizen members, and it really didn't get the attention that we felt that heritage deserved. And so it was, I think, our first meeting was March 20th, 2013. So we're new, but we have accomplished a lot of work. Merci à tous et à toutes d'être venus à la dernière réunion du comité consultatif sur le patrimoine bâti pour ce mandat du conseil municipal. So as I said, I'd like to take a little time to touch on some of the work that this group has done. This Built Heritage Subcommittee is something new because we have a mixture of elected councillors and heritage experts from the community. The subcommittee was created to act as a bridge between the heritage community and council to broaden the knowledge of heritage issues on council and raise the profile of heritage issues in the community. These things have all been accomplished. We're not finished yet, but we're on our way. Some highlights of this work in the last 2 years. Since our first meeting in March 2013, the Built Heritage Subcommittee has reviewed 40 applications, 40 for alteration, demolition, and new construction for properties designated under Parts 4 and Parts 5 of the Ontario Heritage Act. The subcommittee has recommended the designation of 8 properties under Part 4 of the Ontario Heritage Act. We've had several meetings with community associations and Heritage Ottawa regarding heritage issues and goals. And we held a bus tour in September, which brought together the subcommittee members, staff, and members of the heritage community, and another tour is planned for the spring. And this one will have more of a rural connection to it, and we're thinking probably Rideau Goulburn. We'll see a brief and starting maybe in Hintonburg and Westboro and then heading out that way. We'll see a brief presentation of that tour right after I'm finished talking. The biggest heritage issue in the city in this term has been the demolition by neglect issue. The subcommittee, our Mayor Watson, Jim Watson, and City Council have made it clear that we will not tolerate demolition by neglect. There are new provisions in the Property Standards Bylaw to ensure that designated heritage properties are maintained and their heritage attributes are conserved. We know there is more work to be done in this area, and we know that in some cases we won't be able to catch up. We just are too late. We have come to understand the need to update our heritage conservation district plans, such as Sandy Hill, Rockcliffe Park, and New Edinburgh, to address the current development process in these communities. We plan to do this in 2015. A third issue that has been expressed is the mandate of the subcommittee and some concern that it may be too narrow. This is being reviewed for the upcoming term, and when we have our governance review by council of all of the boards, the committees, etc., certainly we'll have some recommendations coming for the Built Heritage Subcommittee. And I have to say thank you to Leslie Maitland for meeting with us, with Michael Mizzi and myself back a few months ago to talk about your ideas on that. Looking ahead, we have 327 designated Part 4 heritage buildings in Ottawa and 18 conservation districts, with only $150,000 annual budget for restoration grants. And we're not sure how we're going to increase that fund, but we know that it's important to do so if we're going to be able to seek the help of the community itself to invest in our heritage districts, our heritage communities. We need to find the financial means to encourage more protection of heritage properties. And we've talked about perhaps through a tax incentive program, sort of as we do with the brownfields development. That may be a way to go. And as recently expressed by the Mayor, more authority from the province to ensure that owners redevelop and preserve heritage buildings in a timely manner. The existing heritage reference list is out of date and requires updating to ensure that property owners are aware if their property is of heritage interest to the city. And we heard this with a couple of applications where the Bradley site, for example, out in the Stittsville area, where the owner who was planning on building a business park found out that no, he couldn't take down the Bradley homestead in that case, and the fact that it wasn't on a list that was available to them when they were making their application, that was problematic. So we're going to be doing some work on that as well. Updating this list will also help the Built Heritage Subcommittee and staff be more proactive as opposed to reactive about designations. Because a couple of times we have been in a position where in order to save the farm, so to speak, we've been in a situation where we've had to designate because of application. And so we're hoping to do that better as well. We need to improve the city's website in regards to heritage matters and have a focal point. So many people are accessing the city's website. We need to have the availability there to talk about where we have been and where we're going with regard to heritage matters. Events such as the Ottawa Architectural Awards that will be hosted this February do just this. Jurors recently toured the nominated submissions and were very impressed with the candidates and with our program. Finally, we need to collaborate more with other levels of government. I think we've made a good start there with the new CEO of the NCC, Dr. Mark Christensen. I was very pleased that literally a few days after his taking over the position, he met with us on 7 Clarence. I thought that was a very outstanding show of his resolution to work well with the city, and I know that our Vice Chair Podolsky has met with him on other files as well. The federal government is a large owner of heritage properties in the National Capital Region, and so we have to be more, even though some of it is not under our jurisdiction, we have to think about it holistically. We need to work more closely with our federal counterparts to build relationships, and I think that several of you know that we are working with the NCC on a heritage workshop in 2015. We will look for more such opportunities in the future. On a personal note, I want to thank all the members of the subcommittee, Councillor Clark, who isn't here today, Councillor Hobbs, Councillor Moffat, Vice Chair Barry Podolsky, Carolyn Quinn, and Sandy Smallwood, for all the work and all the time that you've given to making heritage count, in really giving it a voice. And I think in the short time that we've had around this table, while we can do more, your commitment and your careful attention and thoughtful observations have well served the Heritage in the City of Ottawa, and I thank you very much for all your work. I also want to thank the staff. Now, when the staff were preparing this speech for me, which of course, as usual, I have, digressed from a number of times, as Jan Harder is wont to do. But there is nothing in here that says that complements the work of the staff, and we could not do this on our own at all. We have been fortunate to have another staff person added, and welcome aboard. But Sally and Leslie, Mr. Mizzi, our legal counsel, Christine, thank you, Rosemary and your team, Mr. Dare, and all the work that you do for us. We really appreciate that, because it has allowed us to, I think, be better than what many expected. So we have a long way to go, and I'd look to Ms. Maitland again for your leadership, and I know that you'll be part of the future of the Built Heritage Committee. So thank you, everyone, and we'll get on with our held item, which is, as I said, application for new construction on Littleton Gardens. Now, is it Littleton or Lyttelton?
You're going to do the video first?
Oh, we have to do the video, but is it Littleton or Lyttelton? Little? Yeah, because it could be Lytle. Okay, because we have Lytles out there.
Say tomato, I say tomato.
Exactly. So, on with the show.
Thank you, Chair Harder. Ottawa's Build Subcommittee, as Councillor Harder just pointed out, was created to advise City Council on protecting historic buildings, neighbourhoods, and developments, got an on-the-street look at the city's history in September. A tour of heritage districts saw subcommittee members and city staff joined by community representatives who each led half-hour walking tours. In the Byward Market, Liz McKenzie showed how some of the earliest streets of Bytown exist alongside intensive new development, and how the unique buildings of Lower Town, like the Foisey House, keep the memory of Ottawa's working class heritage alive. In New Edinburgh, Gail McEachran and Janet Urin highlighted the deep historical interests of the district, noting the remarkable retention of many older buildings such as the Fraser Schoolhouse and Henderson House, but noting some new developments that they, as a community, do not believe quite fit in the heritage streetscape. In Rockcliffe Park, Built Heritage Subcommittee member and village resident Sandy Smallwood pointed out the unique character of the village, its large lots, rambling roads, old stone houses, extensive gardens and hedges, and said it is under intense development pressure due to the high value of land and property owners' desire to build big houses. Finally, Heritage Planner Leslie Collins pointed out some of the heritage landmarks in Sandy Hill, Tabaret Hall, All Saints Anglican Church, and Laurier House among them, and noted the development pressures in that community as well. For Built Heritage Subcommittees members and the city staff who work in this area, the tour provided both a close look at some of Ottawa's most important heritage properties and a sense of the development pressures in these unique neighbourhoods. Now we'll see this video, if I can remember what to do. That's right. Play And then he said, take the...
Just move it. Just move it up. No.
This?
No, no, no. Here,
This? It's not left-handed.
That's fine. It'll go away.
Yes. Why isn't it playing?
I don't know why the music's not working. It's playing. The music's not working.
The music's not playing.
That's going to fast forward.
I don't know why they wanted me to do this. I'll stop it. Oh, please tell me that part. That will be up on the website later today, too, for anyone who wants to look at again or tell their friends. I think it's a lucky thing it was a video. If it had been slides, you would still be hearing me talk about every single project there. So thanks for everybody who made that.
What? Do you have Twitter, Leslie? Yeah. Just a thought. I mean, that's probably our best way of getting it out there, and it was a cold day, but it was really a good day. And we had lessons learned, not necessarily needing a big bus, especially in Rockcliffe. It was a little bit of a challenge, but fortunately, Sandy was our guide on that part of it. So thanks, everyone. It was, I'm glad that we did it, because as you know, late in the in this year, there were some questions about whether we should be doing it or not, but we were right to do it. And so I look forward to the next one for sure. Okay, so now we'll go to, and I should say, which I should have said before, is that I'd like to welcome Councillor-elect Jeff Leeper. Thank you for coming out today. So we're going to have some questions. I think, Anne, we're going to, you're going to put up a couple of slides, and then we have some questions from committee.
You don't want to do the French one? What? Do you want me to do the French one? Do you want me to go through all of the slides?
No.
No? Just okay. So not a presentation, just questions?
Yeah. And I do have, and some of the committee members do have questions.
Yeah.
And that's a good one to have for sure with the landscape plan, because there's 8 trees, we're keeping 6 of them, right? Correct? And one of them that's going is
yeah, and through you, Madam Chair, I'll just point out that there's 2 trees up here that are American elms that are also being retained that aren't shown there. That's I put the site plan instead of the landscape plan. But these 2 are American elms. This is an American beech tree. This is also an American beech tree, a large sugar maple. This is the basswood that's proposed for removal. That is not, it's not in good condition, but it's proposed for removal. This tree here is the mature sugar maple that's proposed for removal, and then this is a basswood tree that's proposed to be retained.
Yes, so
which is the one, which is the one that the neighborhood specifically mentioned?
The specific concerns, I believe, is this one, is a large sugar maple, because they didn't have a concern with this one because of its condition, but they had a concern about this one because it's a large mature tree.
So I think it's reasonable to say that given that the lot's going to be developed, it seems that they've done their best to save all of the trees that they can save.
Yeah, and I'll just, the current state of the lot is vacant. It's a filled-in pool with a pool house. So to accommodate a new development and retain 6 of the 8 trees, especially on the perimeter, Littleton is a tree-lined street, and that's very important to the neighborhood. So to be able to keep the ones on the street is very significant, but we didn't have a concern with the removal of the 2.
Right. And this is a proper building lot. I mean, it was always... Basically, what happened is one person had 2 lots.
That's right.
And they just used one of the lots for a pool.
Yeah, that's right. I believe it was a property at 41 Littleton, and it was severed in sometime in the 50s. Right. But they used both.
And earlier you were saying that in order to keep that sugar maple, that is the one in the middle of the yard, it would compromise the design, the plans entirely.
That's right. In order to accommodate the house, and the applicant did give efforts to trying to come up with a design that retained as many trees as possible, but in order to do so, you'd have to really, really minimize your building. So the removal of one, we deemed that was okay.
Vice Chair Podolsky?
And thanks for showing this. I think that one of the things that would be helpful on future applications, especially in Heritage District, where the landscape is of significance, is that the applicant should be required to table a very, very clear landscape plan which shows very explicitly which trees are proposed for removal, which trees and shrubs are intended to be retained, and what the new submission is going to add. I think that in the package that we got, we did not get this drawing.
No, that's true.
And so it's important, not just for the committee, but when it goes to circulation to the public, that it is very, very clear what the landscape strategy is and the rationale for each one. I think that would then prevent confusion about what the policy is, what the heritage values are, and why the intervention is either necessary or desirable. So in the future, if you could show that all the applications contain that. Thank you.
It's a really good point. And it should be, you have that information already, correct? So you're just not including it in the reports? You must have like a landscape.
As a general rule, for all our applications, we do ask for as complete a landscape plan as possible. So we will ensure that they are always, we use them when assessing, but we'll include them in the package for members of the committee now.
Yeah, and if you could...
And this, and this landscape plan is in the report.
No, I think in the report that you have the site plan and a description of the landscape plan. But in the future, I think what we should do is include the site plan and then the landscape plan that identifies the species, so that you have that as well.
Because, you know, with all the amount of work forestry is doing and taking down all the trees that they are now, I mean, and then you're saying an American elm, for example, and then, I mean, I'm not an expert on trees at all, but I start thinking, well, geez, a sugar maple, I happen to know that that's the second most valuable, desirable tree next only to a red oak. And I know that from David Bartley and his group telling me that. So then I'm starting to think, well, you told me that at least 2 of those are American elms, and don't elms have a tendency to get sick? And I just think that it would be helpful, as the Vice Chair said. Member Smallwood?
I wondered, given one of the trees is within the construction zone, I know an issue, thank you, an issue we've faced in the past is when a tree is identified as being saved, or the proposal is to save it, that when we actually see construction take place, construction equipment is parked and drives around the base of the tree, the soil gets compacted, and even though the tree may be saved during the course of construction, within a couple of years it dies because of soil compaction. And what I've seen sometimes is they'll put some of the snow fencing up around it, which just doesn't withstand the rigors of a construction site. So I'm wondering, do you have some protocol in terms of insisting that there be some sort of more robust protection for the drip line of the tree to ensure that trees that are supposed to be saved do indeed get saved?
My colleague Wesley just mentioned that in the past we've gotten advice from forestry services about how sort of the best process in terms of during construction how to protect those trees. So we can again seek their advice on this application and ensure that those measures are followed.
Well, I guess my point is not specifically this application, but if we could just have a protocol for every application, because we've seen this consistently, that the proposal comes forward, the tree is going to be saved, and I can think of several sites around, certainly within the village, where 2 or 3 years later the tree's dead, and it's because of soil compaction and because of the equipment being parked. And so I think that rather than just saying with this one, that we do it with every single one, where trees to be saved, there be some sort of, that the building inspector and others could review and ensure is in place.
That certainly is possible, and I think in the future we can also, I've noticed in other cities the extent that that trees are protected during construction, so we can look into what other cities do and include in an area where the landscape is included as part of the heritage value of the heritage attributes of the district. We can start including on a regular basis information about how that's going to be undertaken during construction on a case-by-case basis.
That would be excellent. Thank you.
Vice Chair Podolsky.
Just a small contribution to this dialogue, which I wasn't intending to extend, but we could look as far as the City of Ottawa because the City of Ottawa, under site plan control mechanism, actually has the policy and has the mechanism in place. And if you destroy a tree that was supposed to be kept by site plan, you are financially punished. The city can go in and actually plant another tree. Michael Mizzi would know that. So I think that we really, if we want to, in the heritage districts which are not covered by site plan control, just borrow the information that has already been established and the protocols through planning.
Thank you. And Mr. Mizzi has something to say?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to add that the management group in Development Review Services, one of our work plan items for the next term of council is to do a re-examination of our construction management plans, what we asked for as one of the conditions of site plan approval. It's being partly driven by ensuring that there's not too much encroachment on the public right-of-way and it pinches traffic, for example, but protection of trees is one of the issues that's on that list in terms of what we will review with the construction management plans.
And that's important because very few of you know, but we're currently working on something called Building Better, Smarter Suburbs, and we've been working on that for a year and a half. And one of the real issues has been the fact that we don't allow the developers to plant a tree. In this case, protect a tree. We don't allow them to plant it because of a number of previous policies on lead of clay and setbacks and the opportunity for people to share who's where, sidewalks, utilities, et cetera, and the density we're achieving, which is very high, and it's on a postage stamp really of space. So I'm glad to hear that because trees are very important. And if you don't have them, you know that. If you do have them and you're going to lose them, you know that as well. So that's great news. Anybody have anything else? Yes?
Some quick question on the design of the house. Every day I drive by this house on Colonel By, at the corner of Colonel By and Leonard, and they've done a beautiful restoration of the house. It used to be a really amazing library inside it you'd always see from outside, but right next to it is this big glass box that they're building. And I can't help but think of the house that you're putting on that they're putting on Littleton Gardens. So I'm just curious, when you have a heritage conservation district and all the homes on the street are relatively similar, this one is of a different architectural style that isn't in keeping with those homes. So how do you determine that fits in to a heritage conservation district?
Good question. And I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
I'll just go to a image of the house so you can see it there.
Actually, no, you can't unless we asked you to. Did you want? But I'm sure that the.
Well, I don't. It's not really so much about who designed the house. It's about how do we evaluate the house design and determine that it's appropriate through our process.
Sure, so I can answer it. The first thing that we do, in this case, it was a somewhat unique circumstance because there wasn't an existing house there that we would have to determine could that house be demolished, yes or no, is it a contributing building. So in this case, we were just looking at the new buildings, and in that case, we referred to the Rockcliffe Park guidelines that we use for the district. And some of the main points of the guidelines are that the materials be natural. So in this case, we worked with the applicant. You can see there's stucco, limestone, glass. We try to encourage natural materials, no fake items. We try to ensure that the building is of its own time. We actually prefer that the building read as a 2014 building as opposed to maybe a 1960s building that is currently on the street. So you're right, it does look very different to the neighboring buildings, but the guidelines don't require it to match its neighbors. It can read as its own building. To complement the neighborhood, in Rockcliffe especially, it's the landscaping. So the maintenance of the mature trees, the orientation of the building to the street. And in this case, maybe I'll just show this. Oh, it's this image here at the bottom portion. You can see what they've done with the proportions and massing to its neighbors. So on the east side of the building, there's a one-story building, and on to the west, there's a two-story. So the portion of the building to the east has been reduced to one story rather, to be more compatible to the neighbor. So that was some of the design techniques that were employed here.
All right. Sandy just said that his industry celebrates this kind of thing. I get puzzled by it. I was on Geneva Street once, and there was all these houses on Geneva Street are beautiful and of a certain time, and then there's this one, wall-to-wall box, which the owner loves, but it is just so out of character with the entire. That I personally don't like that kind of thing, but this is why we have people like Sandy Smallwood and Barry Podolsky and Kevin Quinn here, so that they can put me in my place.
Sandy can speak to the character Member Smallwood can speak to the character of Rockcliffe, but there's such a diversity of architectural styles and ages within Rockcliffe, our district that has 700 plus properties, that we find that the building, it is different, but it's appropriate for Rockcliffe in its differentness.
I guess I'm just not a big fan of the 2014 architectural style.
This is the second time you've said that in the last few months. Just saying. But I thought it was interesting what you said to a building of its time as opposed to a building of another time. And Sandy?
I was part of the original drafting of these plans and was involved with the original designation of Rockcliffe. And one of the things that we tried to come to grips with when we were looking at what it was we were preserving was we realized that there wasn't one particular architectural style or period of time, that the community had evolved over time. And so we tried to find things that were a common thread that went through. And landscaping, the use of natural materials, rhythm, street, shared landscape, these were the type of things that we identified as being important. So rather than saying to somebody, we want you to build a house from this period, we said build a house of its time. So a 2014 house we would celebrate a house built in 2014 that was designed in 2014. And I understand your concern because you're in 2014 now, but I would suggest to you that in 50 years, maybe you'll look back at this house and say it's a wonderful house. So we just are possibly, but that's
I'll take a drive through.
That's how communities evolve. And so we felt that, especially given that where you've got a situation with a vacant lot here, that it should celebrate that that's when the house was built.
Thank you. And so, Member Quinn, Carolyn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think just, Scott, often in situations like this, it's not so much style, perhaps, as it is scale and massing that becomes the issue. A modern, interesting, designed house is perhaps sometimes fits in better if it isn't monopolizing the entire lot. And in this case, looking at scale and massing here, as Anne pointed out, I think it's fairly respectful of its neighbors. However, I think in terms of rhythm and streetscape, there is a difference in terms of its proximity to the street than its neighbors on either side.
This is the building here on in the center. It is slightly, it's within the front yard setback. There's no variances required. It's slightly closer to the street than its neighbors, but by a very small amount. These are the neighbors, and this is it. So I took a ruler and I was looking at it. I don't know the exact measurements of how much closer it is, but it's a reasonable distance.
Okay.
If you can see it, you can't see that the line.
Anything else, Carolyn?
No, thank you.
Okay, now, we did receive, as I said earlier, correspondence, and I'm going to ask Vice Chair Podolsky to address a couple of the concerns from one of the neighbors who cannot be here today, and we would like to address them here at this committee. Even though this will go to Planning Committee, and they would have the opportunity to come to Planning Committee as well, to speak to it, but let's deal with it today if we can. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. We're referring, of course, to the submission from Bill and Jake Irving that raised 3 points. One we addressed, which had to do with the the cutting down of the maple tree. And the second one you have just already addressed, which has to do with the setback from the front property line. I think that you've answered that. It's within the zoning. It does not line up with the other houses, but in the Rockcliffe Heritage Conservation District, I don't think the guidelines say that it has to line up. So that one has been answered. And then the third one had to do with the discussion about the location of the driveway with the side entrance to the garage. Could you actually talk about the options and why that one was supported by staff?
Yes, so in this case, and the comment we received indicated that most of the properties on Littleton have the garages facing the street, and that's true. In this case, the applicant wanted the garage on the side of the house so that the street-facing portion read more as a house as opposed to the garage. From a heritage perspective, we don't have any concerns with the location of the garage on a building, and in fact, often we encourage the location to be on the side of the house. So the location of the garage at the front or the side was not a heritage concern that we had.
Thank you for that. And I'd also like to thank Councillor Moffat for posing his question, because I think part of the responsibility of this committee is the educational mandate. And I think that many people are mystified by how a building which is sort of glass and clearly modern, although the modern movement is now 110 years old, so it's not quite. The difference between modern and contemporary is something that we should be discussing ongoing. But I think that just to recall an issue that took place in Oak Park in Chicago in around 1910, 1912, Frank Lloyd Wright was given the mandate to design a new house on an infill lot. And the people that commissioned him went off to Florida for the winter, and the house was under construction. And the neighbors sent telegrams to the owners in Florida saying, you know, your architect is ruining the neighborhood. And this was a Victorian, Queen Anne-style neighborhood. And Frank Lloyd Wright's modern building, of course, is now one of the attractions of Oak Park. So I think that there's subjectivity involved, but I think that this committee and we all need to continue learning about the guidelines of Heritage Conservation District and reasons for designation, and understand the how architectural styles and values change, and modify our guidelines and our values accordingly. But thank you.
Thank you very much. Member Smallwood?
Member Podolsky, you don't have to go to Oak Park in Chicago. When I was a kid, my parents referred to the Newhart Massey house on the lake as being a shoebox, being stuffed under the side of the lake, and it's now one of the more prominent places to visit in the village. It's now the D'Aquino House, and I was interested to see how there was a considerable news report about the importance of preserving this very, very important heritage house, which, as I said, when I was a kid, when it was first being constructed, was referred to as a shoebox on the lake. In any event, with respect to the garage, one of the issues that when we were looking at our district guidelines, was that garages should be, if possible, subservient to the main house. And putting it around the side or off to the side or in the back or something achieves that desire to have it subservient to the house. So just a comment.
You see, this is what makes this committee so rock solid. You notice that the people that have the least amount of information are the elected officials, but we carry with it a burden of satisfying the residents and the business leaders in the city. But we have our encyclopedias, if you will, our Carolyn and Barry and Sandy, and that's why it's worked so well. So I don't know who's going to be sitting around this table at the next meeting, and we don't know when the next meeting will be, and we don't know which members will be different, and maybe all of you will want to come back, Carolyn and Barry and Sandy. I know that we've really valued all of your work, and you've always taken it a step beyond. But first of all, are we going to carry this then? The Littleton application was carried. So then I'll just continue a little bit. If it's not you that comes back, we need people like you. And, Leslie, I think you would agree with, Leslie Maitland, you would agree with that. I mean, it's not just about the interest and the caring, it's about the actual action. And it's about the consistent watchfulness of our heritage properties. And as I said at the beginning, there's some that, unfortunately, we're too late to help. But we certainly can do something. And as a city, and led by our mayor very much, we are very serious, and I truly believe that people are starting to get that message. We're putting our money where our mouth is, and we're intent on doing better. Anyway, thank you, everybody. Does anybody have any, let's see, I would be surprised if there are any notices of motions. No? How about inquiries? Other business? Okay, so we're
I think just one thing before we're adjourned, Councillor Harder, I think that all of us, the staff and the members of the committee, would also like to thank you for your leadership since this was founded in 2013. We've really all, you've demanded high levels of knowledge and participation, and I think we've all been really privileged to be able to serve and to help the committee. So thank you.
Well, thanks very much, and I don't do anything half-assed. I don't know whether if you know that about me. I mean, I always try my best, and if I had more time, I'd even do more. But I know that some people were very surprised when I was asked to be the chair of this brand new built heritage, and as you know, I've said to Peter Hume several times that he lied to me because, you'll be able to handle it, the busiest people can handle. But, really, I'm proud of what we've all accomplished, and it very much has been a team effort between staff and between us. And really, I really see the sky as the limit. It's interesting to hear what Scott says about, and I said this is like the second time in a matter of months that he's made that comment, but he grew up in North Gore, right? Manotick, man. Well, whatever, you live in North Gore. Oh, that was a stretch. Okay.
I live in North Gore.
Yeah. But let's face it, Mahogany, what Mahogany is building now, and the beautiful Chio house that is one of the Mahogany homes in Manotick, is very different than what you would consider to be heritage of Manotick or heritage of the North Gore and that sort of thing. It's different. But I liked what you said about and I think that you as well, that when you were talking about both of those places you were and when they were built and what the thought was and what they mean now. And if you look at our one community that we designated, Briarcliff. I mean, think about that. For me, when I was first looking at it and we didn't have this committee, I was thinking to myself, what's so special about that place? That really is new-looking stuff, if you will. But there is a history to it. So anyway, enough about today, and we'll look forward to tomorrow and working together. Thank you again, everybody, so much for all that you've done. Thank you. We're adjourned.